Is Super Bomberman 2 best on the Nintendo Switch, or should you buy it on another console like PS5 or Xbox? Let's blast our way over to the Switch and find out. Super Bomberman R2 is a sequel to the existing Super Bomberman R, which came out day one on the Nintendo Switch. So if you weren't playing Breath of the Wild, you probably copped the feel of this game. Or if you're feeling extra edgy, snipper clips. Day one Switch users will probably get a bit of nostalgia if they made it past 1.2 Switch. It's just a Switch launch title that did fairly well considering the extremely critical view people had after playing the open-world Zelda masterpiece. Super Bomberman R1 was praised on Switch for being the best option for multiplayer since Mario Kart didn't come out for another month. Even though it only scored a 62 on Metacritic, the game was known for being a fun party game with a few flaws like input lag, especially in online battles, being too short, or just an overall lack of polish with a juicy price tag. And don't even get me started with the spine not matching the other Switch cases. But it's been a fat minute. For those who don't know, Super Bomberman is a franchise that's been around since the beginning years of home consoles. In 1985, the game released on the NES, and since then, there's been some iteration of Bomberman on every Nintendo console, aside from the Wii U, but we don't talk about that. The gameplay is fairly simple. You're a little robot man who runs around a maze-like stage, dropping bombs and blowing up blocks and enemies while trying to avoid blowing yourself up in the process. The core gameplay mechanic hasn't changed after all these years. Things have been added like different game modes, more maps, power-ups, and more, but the basic Bomberman formula of dropping bombs and blowing up things stays the same. Super Bomberman R on the Nintendo Switch is one of the most recent releases in the franchise until now. Replaying it, it still feels pretty fun, though you'll constantly find that you're blowing yourself up and being absolutely confused on why you made certain life decisions. But that'll happen during every Bomberman game. It's inevitable. It still manages to be fun, especially in battle mode where you take on friends and laugh at each other blowing up. In my mind, it's always been a party game at heart. And now we have Super Bomberman R2, which just released on the Switch, Xbox consoles, PlayStation, and PC. So essentially everything. This title promises to build upon previous releases and give us more game modes, or does it needlessly complicate the Bomberman formula? Right away we see the game has high energy we've come to love from the series. Even on the main menu screen, the snappy music and colorful animation. The story mode starts off with the same style of animation that we see in the previous title. These are fun and well done. It's fun and colorful and doesn't seem to take itself too seriously. It's not bad in any way, but it's definitely a fun time, especially the voice acting. I won't go too much into the story, but this time you're on a planet with these little blue baby looking things called Elons or Ellens. As opposed to the first Super Bomberman R, which had more straightforward puzzle style levels for its story mode, Super Bomberman R2 has more of an interconnected series of maps where we walk around freeing the little Elons and using them to open gates and activate warps. Up to 5 of them will follow you around like a little tail, and it adds a little fun challenge trying not to blow them up along with yourself. There are also these puzzle towers you can activate, which throw you into a small arena, more like what we've seen in the past Bomberman games, and has you complete a small objective. Though from the few I played, calling them puzzles is a bit of a stretch, more like busy work. Hopefully these get more elaborate as you progress. The newest game mode introduced is called Castle Mode. In this, one side defends an objective and the other team tries to steal it until the timer ends. They've even implemented this into some story mode stages. Now I don't know if I'm just not getting it, but this definitely wasn't the game mode for me. I just don't really find it that fun. When you're defending for the first few minutes, you don't really want to go blowing any blocks away as you're just making it quicker for the enemies to get through. And when the blocks are all gone, you just sort of walk back and forth, dropping the same 2 bombs to block the entrance over and over again. This is just the only strategy I could think of. Maybe I'm missing something in this mode, but yeah, this one wasn't my favorite. The good news is, classic battles are back, baby, with all the same Bomberman action you're used to. There's also Stage Builder, which looks pretty in-depth, but I'm probably the last person who would know how to design a Bomberman level, so that's for more of the creative fans in the Bomberman franchise. If this is something that interests you though, then you'll be happy with it. And you can download and play stages from other players around the world, so this is kind of a Mario Maker. Grand Prix mode is back as well, where you can try to collect gems and steal from the other team. Still fun and hectic, and it's just the classic Grand Prix mode. There's also what looks to be ranked play now, with seasons where you can compete against others, and if you're a fan of customization, you should really be happy with the amount of customizability that they added to this game. New characters, outfits, bomb skins, poses, taunts, and so much more unlockables. Even music tracks from other Konami games, which is a nice touch. Heck, you can even play as Simon Belmont from the hit game Super Smash Bros. Ultimate. Now my biggest problem with the Switch version is the overall graphics and performance. These menus feel sluggish when moving between them. Same thing with these loading screens. I think they look great, but the choppiness and stuttering really takes away from them. I get it's just a loading screen and there's stuff happening in the background, but if these aren't running smoothly, why give them a nice animation? It also makes it hard to switch between these text tips on the screen during them. And why when selecting a character do their names not entirely fit in the box? Why didn't they just make the font smaller overall? At least they make the name scroll, but I'm sitting here waiting for the whole thing. Just seems like a bizarre choice. Like, who came up with this? It feels like there was a board meeting about the game and someone probably brought this up, and instead of deciding to make all the font smaller, someone just said, nah, just make them scroll. This is running pretty poorly on the Switch when docked. It feels like it's trying to hit 60 frames per second, but a huge issue is the constant stutter. Most of the gameplay just feels really staggered with random frame rates, which is weird because everything is pretty simplistic in style. I'm not sure what's sucking away so much of the performance. Now, it's arguable if the high frame rate would actually make a difference in the game like this, but it may help a tad with your lightning fast reflexes. The biggest difference between the Switch and current gen consoles is the resolution and performance, as the current gen consoles and high-end PC versions have a higher 4K resolution, a solid 60 frames per second, and overall better textures and effects, like the highly detailed smoke from the bombs. And although these are nice, it doesn't really matter if you're here for the gameplay. So like all Switch fans are used to, you sacrifice overall graphics and performance with the convenience of playing it on Switch. All that to say, it's not any better in handheld mode. The frame rate in story mode is just as low, if not worse, despite the drop in resolution, which leaves things looking a little blurry. It's like there's a constant micro shutter when you move around. It definitely doesn't feel great. I don't see any massive dips, but it's definitely not performing where I would expect it to. Now in Super Bomberman R1, they released a patch like a month later after it released to improve the frame rates there, from 30 to 60. Maybe we'll see something similar with this game, which will completely destroy the micro shutter and actually make it a smooth 60. I don't know why they wouldn't do that at launch, because that looks pretty bad for a game that just released. Now I think the main reason that anyone will want this on Switch is the local multiplayer play. Having up to 8 players play with you in the same room is much easier on Switch than any other platform. Fight me. I didn't have 8 players to try this with me, but it shouldn't be a crazy difference in performance between 8 players playing and regular play. And let's be honest, the chance of you having 8 Joy-Con is a lot higher than you having 8 DualSense. This game was made for Switch users in mind, but not the processor. Overall, this game is a pleasant blast from the past. It has lots to do with an exceptional amount of replayability, but at the end of the day, it's for those who enjoy a classic Bomberman experience with more game modes and collectibles. If you enjoyed the first game, you'll have a happy time revisiting the Bomberman formula. But for the main question, is it best on Switch? In my opinion, yeah, it is. Everything content-wise is here. Although the resolution and textures aren't the best, this is a decent way to experience the game. And if they're gonna do what they did with the last game and fix the constant hitching and frame shuddering, then this is definitely the best way to play. This obviously depends on your playstyle though. If you plan on playing this game exclusively at home and online, the current gen consoles will do it flawlessly and look beautiful at the same time. So for me, it is best on Switch, but is it for you? Let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching this review style video. Let me know if you think it's best on Switch. I'll see you in the next one. See you later.